Hello students, this is Dr. Ravi Saini. So today we are going to discuss about properties of skeletal muscles. So what are the specific properties which are shown by the skeletal muscles? Some of these properties uh, are also overlapped in case of cardiac muscles like excitability, contractility. These properties were also shown by the cardiac muscles. Muscle tone. In case of skeletal muscles, we are going to understand about the properties of skeletal muscles in these three categories. Now come to the excitability. So excitability means there is a response. So there is a response of a tissue to any stimulation. Basically, nerve cells and muscle cells. These two types of cells have such kind of property which we are calling excitability, the property of excitation. So excitability, it is a response to any stimulation. And if we'll talk about the stimulation, then it is defined as an agent or influence or any act which causes the response in excitable tissue. So stimulus is an agent. It's an agent or any act which causes response. So now come to the stimulus. Any stimulus must possess two characters. The first one is the strength and second one is the duration. So these two properties must be shown by the stimulus. Now come to the intensity. So intensity could be at a level of sub minimal, minimal, sub maximal, maximal, or supra maximal. So these are the various kinds of intensity which could be shown by the uh, muscle cells. The intensity of stimulus could be subminimal, lower than the minimum. It could be at minimum level. It could be less than submaximal. It could be at a maximal level, and it could be more than the maximum level. So these are the various types of intensities shown by the stimulus. Now come to the second property, which is the duration. So whatever may be the strength of stimulus, it must be applied for some minimum duration. This minimum duration is also required. Not only strength, but duration, minimum duration is also required for excitation of nerve or muscle cells. So these are the two important properties of stimulus which shows excitation in nerves and muscle cells. Now we'll discuss about a specific curve which is present between these two properties, strength and duration. This is the strength duration curve. So it demonstrates the relationship between strength and duration. This is the curve which is showing this axis is showing strength and this axis is showing the duration. So they are in inverse relation. When the strength is decreasing according to or proceeding when stimulus is proceeding forward. So when there is an increase in duration, the strength of stimulus is decreasing. Now come to the specific characteristics of this curve. Basically, there are three characteristic features. The first one is the Rio base, utilization time, and the chronexy. This is the Rio base. This is chronexy, and this duration is called the utilization time. Now come to the first. What is Rio base? Rio base is the minimum strength. It is a minimum strength of stimulus which can excite the tissue. So the minimum strength of stimulus which excites the tissue is called Rio base. So if any stimulus which is having a strength below this level or voltage below this cannot excite a tissue, whatever may be the duration. If we are applying a very short intensity of stimulus for longer duration, still it cannot excite the tissue. So the Rio base is the minimum strength or minimum strength of voltage or the threshold level which is required to excite any tissue, irrespective of the duration of stimulus. Utilization time. So it is a minimum time which is required for Rio base to excite the tissue. So Rio base is the minimum strength of stimulus, and utilization time is the minimum time. For this, Rio base should be applied to excite the tissue. In this graph, we can see this is the minimum strength of stimulus which is required to stimulus any or to excite any tissue, to excite nerve or muscle. This minimum strength is called Rio base, and this is the duration for which Rio base strength should be applied to excite the tissue. Now come to the chronexy. It is a minimum time which is required for the stimulus with double rheobasic strength. If we will mark a point where strength of stimulus is double than the Rio base. Rio base is the minimum strength of stimulus. And if we are marking a point which is having double the strength of Rio base, so at that point, if we will calculate the duration, this duration is called chronexy. Now come to the second property of skeletal muscles. So we mentioned in previous slides that the three important properties shown by the skeletal muscles are the excitability, contractility, and in the third there is a muscle tone. So in case of excitability, we discussed about the stimulus, the properties shown by the stimulus, intensity and duration. Intensity is also called strength. The intensity of stimulus could be at various levels. Uh, this intensity should be applied for minimum time as well. And then we move towards the curve drawn between the strength and duration curve. Various characteristic features like VO base, which is the minimum strength of stimulus. Utilization time is the time when there is when the cell could be excited by the stimulus. Minimum duration of time. Chronexy is the time where a double strength of Riobase is applied. Riobase is the minimum strength of stimulus. Utilization time is the minimum time where the Riobase strength of the stimulus excite the tissue. Chronexy, it is a minimum time where double of the strength of the Riobase is applied. Now come to the second property, which is the contractility. So contractility is the response of muscle to stimulus. This stimulus is called this stimulus could be any external act, and the muscle shows response, and this response is called contractility. Now come to the various types of contraction. In case of skeletal muscles, we broadly divide into two: isotonic contraction and the isometric contraction. There is a isometric and isotonic contraction. Now come to the isotonic contraction. In isotonic contraction, basically the tension remains the same. In isotonic contraction, basically tension remains the same and the length of the muscle fiber is altered. In isotonic contraction, this tension is same. There is no change in tension, but the length of muscle is variable or altered. Such kind of contraction is called isotonic contraction. The simple flexion of arm where shortening of muscle fiber occurs, but the tension does not change. By the shortening of by the flexion of arm, there is a shortening of muscle fiber, means the length of the muscle fiber is altered, but tension is there is no change in case in tension. So this comes under the category of isotonic contraction. Same thing the same thing happens in opposite conditions. Isometric, in which it is a type of muscular contraction in which the length of the muscle fiber remains same, but tension is increased. In previous we discussed about the isotonic, where tension was constant and the length of the muscle fiber is getting changed. But in isometric contraction, the length of the muscle fiber remains the same, but tension is variable or changes. Like if we are pulling any heavy object, when muscle becomes stiff and is strained with the increased tension, but the length does not change. Such example is of isometric contraction, where the length of the muscle is not changing, but tension is increasing continuously or variable. Now come to the simple muscle contraction, twitch or curve. It is a very basic graph which is shown by contraction in muscle. Now we discuss about some specific points. The first one is the point of stimulus, the time when the stimulus is applied. So in this image, we can see that this is the point of stimulus. Point of stimulus. This is the point of contraction. Point of stimulus between, there is a duration between point of stimulus and point of contraction. This duration is called latent period. And from point of contraction, this is the contraction period, and this is the relaxation period. This is the point of maximum contraction. This is the point of maximum relaxation. Point of maximum contraction and point of maximum relaxation. The point where muscle contracts, it also indicates the beginning of relaxation. So it is the maximum point where a muscle can contract. In case of maximum relaxation, their muscle relaxes completely. Now come to the, again, this graph. This is a point of stimulation, but immediately after stimulation, muscle doesn't contract. There is a lag, or there is a gap or pause. This period is called latent period. After this latent period, contraction of muscle starts. We are calling it contraction period. This is the point of maximum contraction. And now come to the relaxation of the muscle. It is relaxation period. And this point is the maximum relaxation. This point is the maximum contraction. This is the point of contraction, and this is the point of stimulation. So this is the simplest curve shown by muscle contraction. We call it muscle twitch or a curve. What are the various periods which are mentioned in this muscle twitch or a muscle curve? The latent period, contraction period, and relaxation period. Now come to the, this is the latent period which is present between the point of stimulus and point of contraction. This duration is the contraction period. This is the point of stimulation, this is the point of contraction, and this is the point of maximum contraction. This duration is the contraction period. Relaxation period extends from the point of maximum contraction to point of maximum relaxation. Relaxation period, contraction period. This is the highest point where maximum contraction could reaches. Now come to the various factors which affect force of contraction. So basically we started our topic, various properties which is shown by the skeletal muscle. The first property was the excitability. The second property is the contraction. So here we are discussing about the various factors which affect the force of contraction. The first one is the effect of strength of stimulus or intensity of stimulus. We, in previous slides, we studied about the various intensities of stimulus like submaximal, maximal, supramaximal. The second effect is of the number of stimulus. Third is the variation in temperature, how temperature affects force of contraction of skeletal muscles. And in the last, there is a variation in load. These are the four broad categories we will discuss in next slides. The first one is the effect of strength of stimulus. If the strength of stimulus is of level of subminimal, there is no response. If it is at a minimal level, minimum force of contraction would be generated. If it is at a submaximal level, it produces more force of contraction than minimal. If it is at a maximal level, then it produces almost the maximum force of contraction. And if the intensity of stimulus is of supramaximal level, then the force of contraction is maximum. Beyond this, force of contraction cannot be increased. If intensity of stimulus is maximal level, then maximum force of contraction is achieved. But after that, if we are applying supramaximal intensity of stimulus, so the contraction of force of contraction could not be increased according to the supramaximal stimulus.